Welcome to Discovery Watch with John Kaiser.
I'm Jim Goddard. John, on Friday, November 10th, and then on Saturday, the 11th, you'll be participating in the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver at the Rosewood Hotel. One of your picks featured in your Friday afternoon session is Artemis Resources, which is a 50% partner with Novo Resources at Purdy's Reward. Is Artemis going to be the star of the show?
I don't know if it'll be the star of the entire show, but it will certainly be the star of my session. Novo Resources is unable to attend this time around. Artemis Resources is a recent recommendation of mine as a spec value hunter pick. It is 50% partner with Novo Resources at Purdy's Reward, and Purdy's Reward is where we're going to get all the information flow within the next 3 months that's going to tell us whether the WITS 2.0 hypothesis is correct or just a wishful bit of thinking on our part. So there will be, Ed Mead will be there and possibly the chairman, David Lenegas. So I think there'll be a pretty good crowd at the conference, both days, at the company's table, pestering for insights, what's going on the ground. Last week, Novo Resources put out an update. There was no real quantitative information in it, but it addressed the question of the fine gold that was observed in the original 542 kilo sample from the daylighting portion of the conglomerate bed. And that ran 67 grams, just over 2 ounces per ton. But what was interesting about it was that a 9.1 gram per ton calculated component of that was due to fine gold. Gold that's smaller than 1 millimeter that gets not picked up by the Steinert sorting machine, which picks up the larger grains. And so the big question is, how systemic is fine gold disseminated within these conglomerate beds? And the interesting thing about the news release is it included a number of photos of material that had been broken out of the trenches that the company has dug, and had been crushed and panned, and it showed that there's quite a bit of quite fine gold. Now, they mentioned only 3 panned samples, although they talked about 7 in total, so it's not clear if the others had anything in it or not. So the news release didn't really do much for the market. Last week also, Eric Sprott decided that this story was so big that he needed to join the board of Novo. But the much bigger story is the dozens of samples that they have already excavated extracted from the trenches they have excavated along the 1 kilometer daylighting portion of the conglomerate bed, and where they continue to create data points for analysis. The company has told us that they likely will not have any of the large diameter drill results until the new year. However, these other samples are already in drums, ready to be shipped to the NAGM facility in Perth if they are not already there. So we could start getting results coming in batches anytime, like by the end of this month, right through December. And these won't give you a 3-dimensional picture of how the conglomerate bed behaves, but it will show us how at the edge of it, where daylight's, how the grade varies. So one data point from a 542 kilo sample is inadequate. That number was too high. It makes everybody skeptical. If it were lower, people might view it with greater plausibility. But if we start getting several dozen such data points spread out both in the upper and lower part of the bed and along the strike, that will give us a very good idea of how the gold grade behaves. And what people will really be watching for is the fine gold component, because they're going to use the same protocol that they used for the first sample, where they recover all of the coarse gold, but they are also able to measure the fine gold. And the fine gold, if it turns out to be a systemic part of this system, that could become part of the delineation strategy where they use small diameter drilling to assess the 4 to 15 meter thickness of the bed, get the fire assay gold grade, and if it starts being above a certain level, and they can look at the rest of the mineralogy and say, yes, this is the same setting, it will likely host the coarser gold, then we are justified in going in there down the road and taking a bulk sample to confirm the coarse gold component. Now, the reason for the press release, I think, was for Novo management to communicate to the market that they are following procedures completely different from what was done with Briex's Busang discovery over 25 years ago. They mentioned the phrase gold deportment study, and that's a technical term for characterizing the ore, the host for the gold, and figuring out exactly where is the gold squirreled away within the various minerals. Is it inside pyrite? Is it on the outer part of pyrite? Does it exist as free gold? It's basically the basis for a metallurgical study that needs to be done for any deposit. And this was never done with Briex. Nobody ever showed us any thin sections. Nobody told us where exactly the gold was. They just told us we needed to do whole core destruction in the analysis, which is why we didn't have any split core left, because the gold was coarse. But absolutely nothing was ever done to show us where the gold was. The company, of course, needs to know where the gold is hiding, what controls where it's hiding, because this is not so much, it is partly a development of a new measurement strategy for a style of deposit that just doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. Even in the Witwatersrand Reef, the gold grains are never more than 100 microns, which is the size of the width of double the width of a human hair. So the news sets the stage, tells the market that we're doing serious technical work, and yes, we are progressing with the sample collecting. I think at the conference there's going to be an awful lot of interest. What's going on the ground? What's going to be the timing? Could we get these samples well before we get the large diameter drill samples? And of course, Artemis has been putting out news releases on some of its other projects, such as its Muni Muni joint venture, where it's earning 70% from Platina, where the main focus is a platinum palladium deposit that's hosted in the basement rocks, and here they've confirmed that they have the same sort of Fortescue rocks covering it. They have all this core that had to drill through this so-called garbage rock, but because it's all in storage, the company is now going back, pulling all this core, and they'll be looking at the key horizon, this conglomerate bed that sits beneath Mount Robasalt and the basement rocks, to see what's going on there. So that's been part of the reason for Artemis popping up a few cents during the past week. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions at the conference. Well, where else on all these other projects that you have in this northwestern part of the Pilbara, most of which is joint venture 50-50 with Novo, but some of which is 100% yours, and some of it, such as the money, still needs to be determined whether or not it will be included in the 50-50 Novo deal.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after the break.
Glance Technologies owns and operates Glance Pay, a disruptive mobile payment technology now live in 16 cities in Canada and about to launch in the U.S. With revenues up 664% in the last quarter, Glance Technologies has the potential to be a worldwide leader in an industry projected to grow to $1.3 trillion in 3 years. Glance Technologies stock symbols are GLNFF in the U.S. and GET in Canada. Find out more at glancepay.com.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain's Brunswick property is located in the Rideout Shear Zone in Ontario, with grab samples running as high as 32 grams per ton gold. A follow-up drill program to test the numerous targets located by recent groundwork will commence later this year. Please visit our website at rmroyalty.com.
Welcome back. We're chatting with John Kaiser. John, VR Resources is presenting during your Friday session, which starts at 1:40 in the afternoon. How has drilling progressed at the Bonita Copper Gold Project in Nevada?
In late August, VR Resources started a 4-hole drilling program on the Bonita project, a total of 3,000 meters. So these are deep, 750-meter holes. They are scout holes. They are on 4 distinct targets within an overall footprint that's as big as the Yarrington camp, which is farther south in the Walker Lane. And the Yarrington system hosts over 1 billion tons of ore, averaging about 0.4% copper. Some of it has never been mined because it's too deep and low grade, but the higher grade portions have been mined out. What Mike Gunning and his team hope to accomplish at Bonita is to establish a similar scale copper district. However, this has an alkaline affinity, which is sort of similar to Galore Creek, these deposits that have a gold component. The Yarrington system is more a copper moly system. It doesn't have a meaningful gold component. So when you get a copper gold system such as Bonita, the gold becomes the kicker that can surprise. So they are on the 4th hole. These are scout drilling holes where they're basically going for geology. They spent a couple years doing all kinds of surface studies, geophysical surveys, alteration studies, hyperspectral analysis to put together the big overall picture confirming that this is a hydrothermal system. Now these holes are designed to show how does the geology behave in the 3rd dimension so that they can further put the geophysics to use to develop drill targets for an expanded program that will take place in the 2nd quarter of next year. So if we are super lucky, we get some joy in these initial 4 holes, but what we will most likely get is an interpretation of the geological context confirming that yes, this is a copper gold system, and here are multiple targets, multiple zone potential, and this is going to be what we're going to target with a more focused drilling program in 2018. The company has styled itself as a Nevada-focused copper explorer. They've generated a new prospect to the north of Bonita, which they call Junction, which they are quite excited about. It's earlier stage. And then they've picked up another one called New Boston, which is actually south of the Yarrington camp, which was last explored in the 70s. They regard this as unfinished business. They're going to go back in there and rethink it. And they're also are awaiting the final geochemical soil sampling results from the Dambo project, which is farther south in the Walker Lane, and that used to be a round mountain style bulk tonnage target that was drilled, turned out not to be the case. They think it was actually a set of epithermal veins, parallel set, and that if you drill this from the right angle, you may make a high-grade gold discovery. Not going to be enormous tonnage, but it would be the kind of high-grade gold discovery that would intrigue the market. But that will not get a chance to be drilled until the 2nd half of next year, because they won't be in a position to make a decision until early 2018, and that is Forest Service land, and the Forest Service, unlike the BLM, is still dragging its heels with regard to permitting exploration programs in the United States.
Crystal Exploration is the 3rd company in your Friday session. Is Crystal still a diamond junior, or is it about to become a gold junior?
The diamond sector has languished badly in the past several years, and even today there's a big article in the Financial Times about how the emergence of synthetic diamonds, chemical vapor deposition, are starting to get cheaper and cheaper to make and pose this substantial threat to the natural diamond miners such as De Beers, Alrose, the former Dominion Mining, Dominion Diamonds, and of course Mountain Province, the companies that mine natural diamonds that formed a billion years ago and had to travel several hundred kilometers to get to the Earth's surface. Crystal Exploration owns the Muskox project, which is in the North Slave, in the vicinity of the Jericho mine, where technical failures and properly understanding the pipe prevented that mine from being an economic success. It ended up in bankruptcy. The Muskox pipe was found by De Beers, and it has a sort of a medium grade 50 CPHT or so, but not enough work was ever done to fully understand the quality dimension of the diamonds. So they've been doing work to try and reassess that, but I think it's pretty clear that by itself Muskox cannot possibly be a mine. So they've also done sort of second generation exploration using geophysics and indicator mineral sampling to generate subtler targets that the initial pass by De Beers and others would have missed. So they've got 6 targets teed up for drilling, but the market is generally hostile towards diamond exploration because it takes so long to know whether you're in the game or not with a discovery. So earlier this year, they picked up several properties from North Arrow that are in the vicinity of the former Lupin mine, which is now owned by Mandalay. And one of these, the Butterfly, has a banded iron formation gold zone, a smallish zone that was looked at decades ago. And they are now re-drilling that target to confirm the historical grades and to see if there are expansion potential. It's unlikely that that zone by itself could be a standalone, but it could end up providing a future mill feed for whatever it is that Mandalay ends up doing at the Lupin mine. So the focus has, in a sense, shifted to the possibility of a high-grade gold zone that could be monetized relatively quickly, which could perhaps then set the stage for raising the money needed to test these additional kimberlite targets in the Muskox project.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Kaiser. John, on Saturday morning, you start the day with a panel discussion, Where to Invest, which includes Gwen Preston, Jay Taylor, and Greg McCoach. Your second session, which starts at 10:20 in the morning and includes Alto Ventures and Mineral Mountain Resources. What intrigues you about Alto Ventures?
First, on the panel of Where to Invest, my big theme that I'm also going to be talking about in my presentation on Friday is that we are shifting into a discovery exploration cycle. And the market really, really wants to see a substantial discovery. An example of a stock that's run up despite very flimsy evidence of a discovery is a junior called Garibaldi Resources, which has achieved a $400 million market cap, trades $3 to $5 million worth of stock a day. Recently raised $10 million from investors that included Eric Sprott, and they are in the Golden Triangle trying to establish that this old E&L deposit, several million tons at Silver Standard, had discovered is in fact another Voisey's Bay scale system. And Voisey's Bay was bought out for $4 billion, was actually worth $1 billion. So we're seeing here a stock that's gone from, say, 20 cents back in July to trading around $4.50 today. They announced the first holes in early September. They still have not published any results. They've published very limited information. So there is a desire to see big discoveries, particularly in areas that are known to have a substantial metal endowment. Now, until the discovery hole is delivered, you are in danger of seeing a stock like Garibaldi collapse back to 50 cents. And in this case up there, they are going to need sort of 3 to 4% nickel grades, not 1 to 2% grades to support mine in that area. Now, the key concept here is metal endowment, and that's a reason that I like Alto Ventures. It's a reason that I like Nevada Exploration, which was at the September Metals Investor Forum. They are in Nevada, which already has a $400 million gold endowment, a 400 million ounce gold endowment, and the potential for doubling or tripling that endowment, but it's going to take exploration to find those missing ounces. In the case of Alto Ventures, they own a 30-kilometer segment of the Oxford Lake, Knee Lake Greenstone Belt that stretches from northern part of Manitoba into northern part of Ontario. It is probably the least explored greenstone belt in the Canadian Shield. Recent academic work suggests that it has the same setting that supports the 70 million ounces plus of the Timmins Camp from the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, and things like a clastic basin setting, crustal scale breaks. And the reason concepts like this are interesting because it also ties into what we're seeing in the Pilbara of Western Australia with Novo and Artemis. Now, the Pilbara there does not have a well-known gold endowment. Whatever it does have is more of an iron nature. But when you go into the basement rocks, the gold zones that have been found have been fairly pitiful. Nothing at all like we have in places like Ghana and in Ontario, Quebec, in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. And the sort of theory that's emerging here is that these are also old cratons that developed conglomerate-type settings. And if the precipitation theory behind the formation of the WITS 1.0 and speculated to be behind the gold nuggets we're seeing at the Pilbara is correct, then what we have is the origins of the gold in these greenstone belts was actually during these quiet periods in these basin settings when the gold dropped out of solution, out of the seawater where the solubility was 1,000 to 10,000 times higher thanks to the conditions of the atmosphere and the water at the time, and that all these gold nuggets formed in these conglomerate beds, and they happen to be preserved in the Witwatersrand Basin, and now we are hoping, and that's the WITS 2.0 hypothesis, that they are also preserved on the Pilbara. But in other places, such as the Abitibi, the Canadian Shield, these conglomerates got digested, got chewed up again, and probably served as the source, the pantry, that was scavenged by fluids as they came up, these large crustal breaks, and redissolved the gold from its conglomerates, and then ended up depositing it in these splays or in these later banded iron formation type systems. And in the case of Alto Ventures, their focus is banded iron formation, which is formed iron dropping out of a solution and precipitating onto the bed, but then getting folded and then sheared, and then later fluid flow coming up and finding the sheared portions of these iron formations where it's more receptive for gold being soaked up. So the Musselwhite deposit, with its 6.1 million ounce payload of about 6 grams per ton in Ontario, now operated by Goldcorp. This is the target that Alto Ventures is seeking at its Oxford Lake project. They've spent the year doing all kinds of sampling, surface work, further geophysics, and they're setting the stage to go in with a focused drilling program in January to see if they can start putting together larger zones than the original Rusty zone, which has about 154,000 ounces of 6 gram per ton gold. And it was the result of Noranda decades ago looking for VMS deposits in this region, finding this interesting gold target, drilling enough holes to outline a zone, then losing it, and then getting distracted by something else and never following up. So the Alto is going back into this area where it theoretically should have all the ingredients for forming large deposits and putting the risk capital to work in this remote region to make a significant new discovery.
The Homestake gold deposit in South Dakota produced over 40 million ounces of gold. Is Mineral Mountain any closer to drilling its Rockford project to the south of that?
Mineral Mountain had a frustrating mid-year. They had a fair bit of momentum in the second quarter, but they missed that financing window, dropped back towards the 20-cent level. But now they are doing a 15 million unit financing at 20 cents to raise $3 million. They hope to have it complete by the end of next week. They should be able to, they have all the permits in place. All they need to do is notify the contractor. Let's go start drilling. And the Rochefort district, it is south of the Homestake deposit. And the Homestake deposit is the world's richest iron formation hosted gold system. 40 million ounces from this 8 to 10 gram per ton average from these so-called ledges. And the Rochefort district to the south has a similar setting. You had the iron formation form as originally as sort of this layer cake of iron enriched material, and then it gets folded from one direction and then folded in another direction and creates these almost canoe-shaped keels in this area. And then there was later shearing where shear structures would come through and kind of like wrench these canoe keels, and if you got them at just the right angle and then the fluids came up, harvesting the gold from who knows what source, but depositing it into these perfect sponges, you can get some extraordinary gold deposits. And that's what the Homestake deposit is. It's a main one with several other ones associated. In the Rochefort project, there were two small mines, the Cochrane and the Standby. They chased that to what appeared to be the limit, but big companies in the past 30 years drilled a few deep holes, did confirm that there is gold mineralization there, but never really followed up because the land ownership was all fragmented. And what Mineral Mountain did was manage to assemble most of the claims into 100% owned package. And they are now in a position that if they do find something, they don't have to worry about it projecting onto some other party's property. So as soon as they have the money in the bank, they will start drilling the projected down plunge part of the Standby formation, iron formation, and go in there. And the reason they wanted at least $3 million is this is not like spearfishing where you can see where the gold actually is. You have to go in there and drill a series of holes and then do analysis of the geology to vector in where are those sweet spots within these keels, sheared keels of these folded iron formations that the gold will have shown. And of course, once you have it, then you do detailed following, and the instant they have found such a deeper sweet spot, then it will be easy for them to raise the rest of the money that they need to properly delineate a new discovery at Rochfort.
John, thanks for the update.
You're welcome, Jim.
We've been speaking with John Kaiser, his website, kaiserresearch.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on Discovery Watch are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at howstreet.com. Discovery Watch is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.